Hi, welcome back to All United Homesteaders. We're Homesteaders Unite. We are Three Strands Homestead. I'm Carl. This is my wife Megan. And a little earlier, we posted a video of why we homestead, and it's more of a two-part video. The other part was
more of like an introduction.
well, that and the purpose behind this channel. So we have the channel, All United Homesteaders, and that's just a platform to where homesteaders can kind of get together and unite, live life together, work together, fellowship, and things of that nature. So, yep.
And I think we wanted to discuss more of why we homestead, like more in detail of why it's so important to us, because
Right.
homesteading is it's our life. You know, it's been my life for the past 4 years, and as Carl had mentioned, he's just now starting to come more on board because he was away from home and working. So, and that was in the first part of this video.
Right. Well, and also touch a little bit into the All United Homesteaders part as well, while we're really doing this to begin with. So, why don't we just start there? So, this was a channel that the Lord really wanted us to put on YouTube, and totally against my nature. I was totally against doing anything public like this. So this is definitely not.
It's just out of your element.
Yeah. It's out of my element, out of my comfort zone. But a good friend of mine called me one day. This is kind of where the history or the it was near history. This just happened. He calls me up and he says, "Tell me if this resonates with you." And he said, "YouTube channel, Homesteaders YouTube channel, where it really shows. Let's see here. It really shows us homesteading, but it also how do I explain this?
That God is in all the aspects of our life, you know, whether it's marriage, family, community, homesteading, that God is the foundation for all those things, and we want to put him on display, you know, in all that we do.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where the All United Homesteaders came in, because homesteading for our life is of course God is the center, but homesteading is more of the core, you know, of what we do, and it's very important to us. It's important to our friends. You know, we are all like-minded people. We all love the Lord. We share the same interests with homesteading and, you know, raising gardens and animals, and so that's just, you know, our people. They are like-minded. We're all, you know, willing to learn from each other. We've known some of these families for a very, very long time, and they're very dear and precious to us, and you will meet them later on as they get their content out, you know, and
right.
So I get, you know, that's what you were trying to say, and
yep, she said it great. So yeah, I'm still learning and all this. So and that's it. And this is a foundation that is built on the Lord.
Everything we do.
And it's built on the Lord. It's not. It doesn't just start with the Lord and it stops there. But no, it starts and it's built on the Lord. And that is really the purpose of this whole channel, is for people to see what it looks like for people to come together and unite. And it's beautiful to see. It's beautiful to see a family unite. And as we are the body of Christ, I believe it's all the more to have different families come together and unite and get along, and for y'all to see what that looks like, and
because it wasn't always that way for us.
No.
As you touched on that, that'll be a different video. Our testimony and how we came to the Lord. And actually He came to us, and not trying to cut you off.
Oh, no.
I didn't want to interrupt you there. Good. But so yeah.
Yeah, and just really putting God on display in all that we do. That is really, to sum it up, that would be the purpose of this channel, is to have not just homesteaders, but really anybody. We just that was just the
core.
The core of it was of homesteaders coming together and getting back to God and living life together and putting God on display. So that is what this channel is about. We are Three Strands Homestead, as we've mentioned earlier, and we really want to talk more in depth of why we do what we do.
And our journey,
yes.
Like our individual unique, because all homesteaders have unique journeys, you know, they're individual journeys. What works for one might not work for the other.
That's right.
Or something, someone's raising something, and we all bring different things to the table. We all bring good things to the table, so if we're all just raising chickens and that's it, it's like, well, we got a lot of chickens, but where's the diversity? Where's the learning, different things and different techniques, because we're open to, learning new things.
That's right.
It's not like we're just closed off and our way is the only way. No. We are wanting to know other ways and gain knowledge. But I think, I don't know, just our journey, and you had already touched on that, and if you want to go hear some about that, you can watch part 1 of,
what was the title?
This video, Why We Homestead, part 1 and 2.
Yeah. So this is the second part, right. Obviously,
mm-hmm.
and so we touched a little bit on why we homestead and when we started homesteading in part 1. So this video we want to share more in depth
of why.
Of why, and I know you will do a better job on that. So.
Well, if you just feel like you have any questions, as we, then just, and of course you already know the answer to some of those questions, because it's not like you don't know anything about what we've been doing, but so
yeah, I would say, what would you say the main reasoning behind why we homestead? And ultimately, the main reason is because God called us to homestead. And
it's His design. It's His plan. It's, living off the land. And, a lot of people say self-sufficient, and I understand that. But God sufficient is a term that came to me. Because when you say self-sufficient, I know people don't mean it this way. But it just how it resonates with me is that you're doing it yourself.
Yeah.
And I can't do this by myself. Carl can't do this by herself. We can't. That's why it's a 3-part thing, hence the name Three Strands Homestead. It's God is in the midst of it, because without Him, this would never be. Because if you told me, 10 years ago that I would be homesteading, even though as a child I enjoyed, seeing my papa do certain things and growing food, it still wasn't really deep in me. It just wasn't something that I was like, yes, I'm on board with it, I'm going to do it.
Oh, we would have laughed about it 10 years ago. I mean,
this would have never happened, but it's so amazing how your desires change when you come to the Lord. Yep. It's like everything that you were is no more, and you become totally different. What you like, what you do. So why we homestead is because the main thing, it's very important to me what's in our food.
Yeah.
That is one of the most important things. And 2, I don't like how animals, like with commercial farming and mass-produced food and all that kind of stuff, how they're treated. They're treated so poorly, and they're just pump them in, pump them out. They have fed GMO feed, and they're not treated well. They're harshly treated, and I do not like that at all, because that is not God's design. That is not His plan. And But here, we know how our animals are treated and what they're fed, and just we can see it. We're the ones doing it, you know, and so that would be the main reason is what we are feeding our children and feeding us. As with most homesteaders, that's what's important. You know, that is because we want to depend less, and we want to depend less on the system out there because it is so broken.
Oh yeah.
You know, the food chain, the food system is so broken. And even though it's patented organic, you know, it's like, is it really organic? We don't know where it's sourced from.
Right.
We don't. And so when you're raising all this, you know, that we have out here, the goats and the pigs and the chickens, and we're seeing it, we're doing it, we know even though our animals are for meat, some of them, they're well loved, they have a wonderful life, you know, before we do that process. So when we did start homesteading though in 2019, that was not on my list to eat animals for food on our homestead. I was very against it.
Oh yeah.
Which is so strange because it's not like I was vegan. I ate meat, you know. It was just hard to take the life of an animal, but God had to take me through a process to break that in me, you know.
And we're still learning that whole process right now. So I can't say we're big into butchering our own animals because we know the process. We have not, other than deer, you know.
And we do have pigs that we're raising, but we have not personally.
We haven't done the process yet.
We haven't.
We might get into it and realize that we don't like doing it. I don't know. So.
I hope that's not the case.
Oh yeah, I hope it's not the case.
Because I want to raise, you know, our own meat, but.
Because like she's saying, I mean, that's one of the biggest purposes of doing what we're doing is to know what we're putting into our food ultimately. So it's a big part of this, you know.
Oh, yeah.
So hopefully we can do it. Hopefully we can butcher chickens and pigs and whatever else.
Because that was difficult for us in the beginning, you know, and I had to cull a chicken, and she was my favorite chicken, and that was very difficult, you know. So I was thinking to myself, how am I ever going to raise animals for meat? But as long as I keep that in the forefront of my mind that these animals are for meat, you know, that does, like with the pigs, that does help me because I know that we will butcher them this year, you know, or have our breeder pigs, and then we will have the meat pigs. But so yeah, it's definitely a process. We've only been homesteading for 4 years.
You got introduced to it back in 2014, and
there was a long gap.
So that was kind of when we got introduced to it, and then that got put on the back burner for a while.
For 5 years.
Yeah, and we lived life basically, and the Lord was showing us a bunch of different things in between that period and when we actually started homesteading, and since then.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, and since then we're constantly learning things. Excuse me. So and hang in there with me because I'm trying not to So I'm learning is a big part of my vocabulary apparently. So.
But something I wanted to touch on when you just said that, you know, is the Lord was showing us things and teaching us things, and stewardship was one of those things. And if you don't know how to steward things well, like your family and your animals, how are you going to steward a homestead properly, according to His standards? And so that was a process that we had to be taken through, you know, to how do you take care of things?
Oh, yeah.
You know, what does it look like to steward, you know, what you have?
Right.
But
and we're constantly trying to get closer to His standards. We definitely don't have that down because I know His ways are higher than our ways. His thoughts are higher than our thoughts, and so we're constantly working on that and learning from past mistakes and all of that. So we have the reasoning behind our homesteading is one, well, the Lord simply called us to do it. Two, we want to be more God sufficient, not so much self sufficient. Which nothing against anybody that says.
Yeah, we know what you mean by that.
That's right. We know exactly what you mean. So to be more God sufficient, and what I mean God sufficient is really leaning on the Lord. And what does the Lord want us to do? There's that. But what does this look like in the Lord's eyes? And really seeking Him for wisdom and understanding and strength, and not just trying to survive, but to really thrive, and to have fellowship and praise the Lord, to worship the Lord in spirit and in truth, and having this healthy balance of God, and God being the focal point of everything that we do, and all that good stuff. But so being more God sufficient, and really just being able to come together and not be so spread apart. Like I mentioned in my last video, I was working, and she would be at work or here. That just don't want the kids to be at a public school, and this way we get to we really get to come together and do this by the grace of God. So
and another thing I wanted to touch on that's important is homesteading is not easy.
Oh yeah, so
if you come into that with that mentality of you're set up, things are going to be good, it's not always easy. And without the Lord, last year was a very difficult year for us on the homestead, very difficult. And without His strength to persevere, I would have.
And it's expensive.
Yeah, and but there are ways, and we're learning those ways. We learned a lot of things the hard way, and we don't want you guys to learn that. Yeah. So we want to share what we've learned, because we didn't have anyone to come alongside us and show us how to do this. I had to learn how to give injections on my own. I had to learn what to feed, what mix to feed my goats. We mix our own feed for them, and what's good, what we didn't want to do the chemical wormer for the goats, but right. We do if necessary. I'm not going to let them die, but for the most part, we use apple cider vinegar, garlic, and herbs, and that's for the whole homestead. But it's not easy. It is not easy, and there are certain seasons where it feels like it's just going to break you, like it's just a wave that's overtaking you, and it can be heartbreaking. Literally, it really can. It can be. It can be devastating. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, But then there's those seasons too that. New life, on the homestead. Baby goats are born, and you got new baby chicks, and the garden is coming in, and it's all that is, you're seeing the fruit of all the hard work that you've put into it, and winter is typically a season where it's just kind of dormant, it's for everyone to rest, the goats, and we're not milking them, and the chickens, aren't laying a whole lot of eggs because they're molting and all that kind of stuff. So we're just now getting a lot of eggs, which is nice considering the price of eggs.
Oh yeah.
And that brings me to another thing I want to touch on before we close, unless you have something else that you want to say, is we've had people say, well, I've seen how hard this is for you. I can just get this at the store, and it's like, well, and I've seen comments on Facebook and YouTube about that too, and that is true. You can go out and get what you need for now at the store. Stuff's going up, shortages, and all that kind of stuff. We're not always guaranteed that. So that's another reason that we homestead too, is because you're not always guaranteed that you can just go out and get eggs. That's why we have chickens. And can it be a little more pricier having chickens? And it can be. But there are ways around that, just like there's ways around all of it, homesteading. But just because you could don't mean you should, I guess. Just because you can go to the store and get something doesn't mean that's the right way. And especially if the Lord's leading you out of that system, like He's doing with us and so many people that we know.
Oh yeah. We are learning. So we have a lot to learn, and we hope to get more tips from you guys. And we're just we're starting a season now to where I don't have to be off working all the time. By the grace of God, we have hardly any debt, and that's been a blessing. So I can then, instead of taking the money that I make and having to be gone to pay for all this debt, I can now take it and invest it into the homestead. And that is now my heart. The Lord has really changed my heart. It used to be to where I would take that money and invest it back in the business, so I can then do more business and stay gone more and have more debt. So so it's been nice to be freed from that, and a homestead starting up is, or can be. I don't believe it has to be. Like she had mentioned, we have learned a lot of things the hard way. For us, it was pretty pricey, and we hope to share some of our mistakes that we've made.
Do's and don'ts for our homestead, you know.
So that will be another video coming in the near future, Lord willing. But so.
And real quick too, one thing that came to me was that homesteading has kept me humble, you know, and my dependence on the Lord.
Oh yeah.
You know, and just realizing my dependence and my need for Him, you know. So.
Oh yeah, did I touch on like how? So a good friend called me and he says, does this resonate with you? Homesteading.
Yeah, you told him
YouTube.
earlier.
Did I?
You did.
Well.
Well, you got into it. I don't know if you ever finished it.
Yeah, I don't think I ever finished it. And well, earlier that morning, and he didn't know this, and he had not yet told me that the Lord told him that He had already spoke to me about this. But earlier that morning, when he called, I think I was just out on the homestead, just kind of walking around, and I was just like, man, I wish there was more, and there might be, and I just haven't discovered these homesteads or these groups of people, but to where it wasn't, it was just more of God being the center focus of all of it, and just looking at how in depth we can go with this. Because a lot of, I think in our earlier video, she had mentioned like people not going really in depth. Mm-hmm. Like,
just kind of like
they're
a vague,
touching, they're kind of touching on certain things, but not really going in depth. And I really want to go in depth into what we're doing, so people can really learn what not to do and what to do and all that good stuff. But so I was outside and I was just thinking about this, and I was like, man, YouTube channel, something I'm totally against. And
I've tried in the past to do videos and they just wouldn't work.
Yeah, see, and I didn't even know that.
No, they just wouldn't work.
And so buddy of mine calls and it's like, does that resonate? And I was like, man, I was just thinking about that earlier this morning. And since that day, that was a month and a half ago, maybe.
Yeah, it was early December.
A month and a half ago, and it's been on my mind and my heart since then. And we just got back from Kentucky, and a good friend of mine lives there, and we're sitting on his couch fellowshipping, and he's like, and he didn't know anything about what I just mentioned, and he says, man, I just have a deep, what do you say? A deep desire. Yeah, that's the word. Forgive me, I don't come up with the best words, so you gotta forgive me. So he had a deep desire to start up a YouTube channel on just home, like the family and homesteading and fellowship and just living life together and stuff. And I just jumped to the edge of my seat, and I'm like, what? Like, I'm like, let's do this, you know. So the Lord is definitely speaking to some people, and no doubt this is Him. wanting us to do this. I just pray that it is not just founded on Him, but once again that it stays, it's built on Him, and so yeah. What else can we say?
I think we'll do a tour pretty soon of the homestead.
Yeah.
You know, to let y'all see, you know, just what we're doing and plans, you know, for the future of the, because we do have some really, you know, really good plans that I'm very excited about. So
we really want to share a lot of different things with you and really grow in this together, because a lot of this stuff we're just kind of touching on. So we're really kind of getting started in this at a good time, I believe. Because
we have learned quite a bit the past 4 years, you know, and it's like now we're at a place where we can share what we've learned, you know.
Right.
So.
Yep. Because we have goats and chickens and pigs and
hopefully some meat chickens soon.
Yeah, hopefully some meat chickens soon.
I would love
and
a cow one day. Yeah.
Yeah. So
the cows are heart of the homestead.
Oh yeah. So there's a lot there, and then just things that we're building, projects to be done in the future, and like we have a sawmill, and we'll be doing some milling and tips on all that, and I have a tree service, and I like to teach people things on all that kind of good stuff on how to climb trees and do it proper, and all kinds of kinds of stuff, and then
bread making for us, canning, you know, a video about modesty, because that's very important to me. You know, that was something that I felt the Lord put on my heart to share, you know, is a video about why it's so important for women to be modest, you know. So that's something that might come out fairly soon. But yeah, just stuff, you know, in the house, and like we mentioned in the other video, that we do have baby goats due pretty soon. One's due in about a month, so hopefully we can catch that for y'all, because it is incredible, you know, unless you have to pull one like we did the first season.
I wasn't there for that.
That was very difficult, but
I was at work.
And I was at home alone, but that's a God story. About how He sent Miss Julie. I mean, that was incredible. But anyway, so we just wanted to jump back on here, and I know this video was a little bit longer, but we really wanted to go into detail of why this is so important to us, and we're called to do it. You know, when God puts a calling in your life, you cannot help but pursue it. You know.
That's right. So. That's right. Yeah, and really hope that once again y'all will tag along and just share with us any tips that you may have, and yeah, it's gonna be a journey for sure. So there you have it. That's
the good and the bad too. We're not gonna withhold anything, you know. Like we're not gonna. And what I mean by the bad is what can seem bad is just difficult things that happen on the homestead, and because that's part of it, you know.
Absolutely.
Babies die on the homestead, goats die, you know, chickens. I mean, it's all part of that cycle, you know, and so.
But each time you go through something like that, if you allow it, it'll make you stronger, and it will really help you on the homestead. That's what we have learned.
And I'll probably do a video actually of last year's difficulties that I faced, because I don't want people to feel like they're alone. You know, like when you hear of someone else going through hard things and what they've been through, it's like you can relate to that, and you don't feel like you're alone. It's like, because I know many of you have faced very difficult things, you know, and or you're facing them right now, and you just feel alone, like you're alone in this homesteading thing, and it's just constantly raining, you know, and there's no relief.
Like whenever you come home and all your chickens are dead because a mink tore them up.
That was terrible. And Granny was our favorite. She was our oldest, and our daughter, it took her a long time to get over that. And it's so crazy how your children, you know, enjoy it. Now there's things they don't enjoy.
Oh yeah.
You know, there's things that they don't want to do, you know, and there's things that I don't even want to do. I'll be honest with you. You know, there's just things that just aren't that interesting.
Oh yeah.
Like cleaning up goat poo and stuff. That's, you know, not that but it has to be done.
Just because God called you to do it doesn't necessarily mean that you're gonna enjoy every bit of it. But we can certainly appreciate every bit of it, and we can be very thankful through it all. So there you have it. that's pretty much the gist of why we are doing this channel. Number one, the Lord called us to it. Two, we're just wanting to get together and unite with other
and meet other homesteaders. We live in North Central Arkansas, and so if there's anyone
Ozarks.
that's wanting to, and we haven't always lived here,
no.
you know, so we're actually pretty new, you know, transplant from Deepey's, Texas, where we were born and raised, both of us.
Oh yeah.
And so we're wanting to meet more people, and if y'all live in the area and want to, you know, meet up, y'all can. I don't know if they can message us through YouTube. I don't really know. We're still learning all the YouTube stuff.
Oh, yeah.
We don't know anything, you know.
So, yeah, we'll get all that figured out, and also, you know, just why we do the homesteading. Number one, the Lord called us to do it, so we do it. Two, it is more God sufficient. We are to be more God sufficient, dependent on God in all that we do, and just knowing the systems that are broken in this world, and how dependent we have been on those systems, those broken systems and systems that are God. We are doing this to get back to God and to really close the gap on depending on all these different things, and then we depend on God. No, we want to depend on God. And so that's really why we do it. We're not doing it perfectly. We want to, as we go along, just keep getting closer to the Lord and learning new things and all that good
bartering,
stuff. So
we're big into bartering.
Oh yeah.
You know, so
we can do a whole video on that.
Yeah. There's a lot of content coming for sure. So
yeah, well, thank you for joining us, and we hope that y'all will stick around. I know these past two videos might have been a little boring and a little
all
long.
over the place.
Yeah. So just hang in there. We pray that our editing will get better.
And y'all will meet our children too.
Oh yeah.
We do a family introduction video, you know, with the homestead, and because we do have children, as you know, 3 children as well.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, all right. Well, we'll see y'all next time, Lord willing. Take care. Have a good day.